Bang! Needs knives. I'm Jared. My lovely wife Kara is busy, and today we are checking out the Wiha Practic. This knife was sent to me from Stasa23. If you don't know who that is, well, slap yourself and hurry up and go over to his channel and subscribe. Stasa23, an amazing channel, and thank you, bud, for letting me check out some of your knives, and thank you for supporting us for so long. He's been awesome to our channel. Now, this knife it's an older model, so let's just get right into it. I know there's quite a few reviews on it, so let's get into the good and the bad. First off, this knife is a great EDC size. I love the EDC size it is. The blade length is just over 3 1/4. It's basically 3 1/4, and then the full length is basically 7 1/2. It's just under 7 1/2. So great EDC size for a lot of people, and it gives you a good choil. Great choil. Now let's get right into the blade. And I did sharpen this because it did need a new edge. Now, I know Stasa, he puts amazing edges on his knives, so I know he could have took care of it when I sent it back, but I wanted to sharpen it for the cutting I wanted to do, because it wasn't getting the performance I wanted out of it. Now, I didn't record the sharpening, but I did record some cutting. We'll talk about that in a second, but this is a beautiful hollow ground blade. Just beautiful. Good stock thickness, and great blade shape for cutting too. I measured this one at about 15 thousandths, give or take. In some spots it's a little less, but it's about 15 thousandths. And let me wipe this blade down really quick. Nice satin finish on it. Looks really good, the belt satin. We'll take a look at the edge also really quick. I put a nice mirror edge on this M390, and it took a pretty good edge. It's not my best edge I've ever done, so, you know, it's nothing absolutely remarkable, but the M390 stayed nice and nippy all the way to the mirror. Now, I didn't put an absolute mirror on there because I did want to make sure it kept a good amount of bite, which it has. So, cutting with it though, the utility cuts are pretty decent on it. You have a good grip right here to push up into your palm, to put your finger on, to really get good leverage down onto something. It does have, you know, some belly there, so you do have to lift up just a little bit to get the actual utility cut if you're just wanting to use the tip. But then slicing, you got good jimping here that really locks you in, and it slices really, really nicely. It slices really good. I mean, it's a great, great cutter, and you can take advantage of this choil if you want to for other cuts, for push cuts, and it cuts really good. The ergos and the blade geometry work out very well on this knife. You get a lot of leverage in your cuts because of the ergos. When you have a good relationship between the blade and the handle in the hand, it just makes a knife cut that much better. Now put good blade geometry on it as well, and you got a winner. You got a winner for cutting, and this knife is absolutely a winner for cutting. The great depth right here for the grip, great thickness in the hand. It's comfortable in a lot of ways. There are a couple problems, but it's very comfortable. And then the sharpening choil is really nice. It's a very easy blade shape to sharpen, so I had no problems sharpening it. It sharpens really good. The steel felt pretty good, and it just really good in all those ways. Now, the hardware on it is all T8s. I love Wiha's hardware. Wiha does incredible hardware. Not only does it work really good because, you know, the bits fit very nicely, but they use nice big hardware, and it's good quality. It is titanium hardware, but it's hard titanium hardware. I hate when I see titanium hardware that's soft. Now, the clip works good in some ways and bad in others. So it's a good clip in a lot of ways. We'll get into the clip a few times in this video, but it does hit the screws a little bit. So going in and out of the pocket, you do run into those screws. So that could be an issue. It is reversible though. So, and also it sits on top of the scale. But anyways, it does work, but you have to watch out for those screws because it does hit the screws, and you got to kind of adjust it as it's going in the pocket. Otherwise, it gets caught on those screws, and you got to just adjust it and put it back. Now, another thing I really like is the action. The action is amazing. It's Wii action. Wii always does really good. You can do a push button. I tend to like the light switch a little bit better because the jimping is so sharp, it just grabs your skin. I mean, literally, it's like it's, can you hear that? It's like it's nipping you, and I like that. It grabs you, and you just basically yank, and it flies out big time. Now, the liner is pretty easy to get to. It's not the best access ever, but you can get to it pretty easily. Nice and centered. It's locked up really solid in all directions. I like that. Then the drop on it, when you do unlock it, the detent ball is nice and early. So since a lot of people like to let the flipper tab hit their finger and then swing it down, it's very easy to do that. And you can always just push it and push it with your finger back here, then let it drop, or let it just go past with your finger, or you can let it hit the detent and push it past. Regardless, the action's great. Also, you can reverse flick it from down here pretty easily. So I could see adding thumb studs to this it works so good. Now, another thing I like about the liner or the lock is I love the lock geometry. Wii does great lock geometry. It looks really good, and it looks like Wii's lock geometry. I've seen a ton of Wii's lock geometry, and they just do a great job with it. One, they're almost always locked up very solid, you know, going towards the lock, like there's no play towards the lock, but they have nice early lockup that just feels rock solid and goes nice and slow over time as it moves, you know, that way. As the lock bar travels this way, it's locked up very solid and it moves very slow. Meaning if you sit there and flip your knife, you're not going to have to worry about the lock bar just going yoink all the way to 100% and causing lock rock and stuff like that in the future. Now, let's talk about some bad things really quick. So, we do have a few bad things. So, one thing, let's just go right to the clip really quick. So, I already said the screws sit up, it sits on top of the thing, on top of the scales, but it just looks cheap. You know, you have the titanium hardware, and it just looks beautiful. Now, I did hear other people have a titanium clip on theirs. Maybe Stasa changed his, I'm not sure. Or maybe this was just, you know, they have different models. I'm not sure. But I think it looks kind of cheap. The shininess, I don't like the shiny. It'd be better if it was stone washed. So I just think it looks cheap. Now, another thing is when we're talking about the shininess, I don't like the shiny liners. Shiny liners look like gas station-y to me. I'd rather it be dull or stone washed or something like that. It looks like they're trying so hard to go pow in your eyes. And I don't mind the titanium hardware being shiny, but the liners, you know, it's nice and milled out. So it definitely is a good weight, but you know, I'm not big on the shiny liners. Now, another thing, going back to the clip, the ergos, man, these ergos are so good. Then I get the clip and you see what it's doing to my finger, to my hand. I mean, it really gets me in my hand. I mean, pretty bad. I mean, I hold it and I'm thinking like, man, this thing is so comfortable. And then I go to squeeze it right here and this just goes right into my bone. So when I move up here, it's a lot better, but the choil's not very big. So it just doesn't give me the right position I want. Back here, I feel a lot more locked in and solid, especially with the jimping. And then I got the clip in my hand, but I'd rather have a clip than not. So next thing, the lanyard placement. I mean, I just don't understand it. I mean, because in my hand, okay, so if you might love lanyards and you might be able to work it out, but for me, I've already got the clip driving me nuts. Now, if I put a lanyard there too, that would just be way too much for me. You know, it coming out both sides, it'd be literally right into my palm. And then look, when I go to flip it, I always think about the lanyard hole when I go to flip. I feel like it should be like back here or something, someplace where it's not going to be on my hand when I go to flip. Now, I don't use lanyards that often, but, you know, maybe it's a good placement for you. I don't really like it. Next thing is, it has a tiny stop pin. I mean, this is like, I know this isn't a big knife. It's not a hard use knife. It's not any of that. But dang it, that stop pin looks extra tiny to me personally. It just looks like a very, very tiny stop pin. I mean, I can show you smaller knives with bigger stop pins. And I mean, it just looks so tiny to me. I don't like small stop pins like that. It's just way too tiny. Next thing, the G10. I've never been a huge fan of Wiha's G10. It feels like FRN to me. And I know maybe it's the resin that they use, or maybe it's the type of G10. You know, I don't know. Or maybe it's just the finish. I'm not sure. But for whatever reason, like, to be honest, you could take this scale and a Rat 1, and I couldn't tell the difference. You see that? I couldn't tell the difference between them. I mean, they both feel the exact same. I mean, identical. It feels like FRN to me. So that's definitely a complaint. And I've had that complaint for a while on Wiha. I wish they would improve their G10. So all in all, love the knife. Knife's great. Fantastic knife. My biggest complaint is probably the clip, because of what it does to my hand and going in and out of the pocket. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot of good here. I also, you know, I'm not a fan of the liners. So, and the G10. I mean, like I said, I have a few complaints, but it's a great knife. And the biggest thing is just that dang clip. Look at this. Watch this. This is how I hold it when I cut. Watch my hand. You see that mark right there? I mean, ooh, it gets me. All right, guys. This knife is fantastic. If you have it, you have a great knife. It's a great knife, a great cutter, great blade shape, great action, great lot of things, man. And I could see this fitting great in a lot of people's hands, just not mine. My hand's just a little, it's just a little awkward for me because of the clip. Now, with the titanium clip, it might be 100% better. I don't know. But there you guys go. Love the knife. Like I said, great, great knife. If you have this knife, you got a damn good knife. I love you guys. Peace.